Good afternoon. Welcome to MEED Live. We have a special edition of MEED Live today. We're going to be talking about artificial intelligence in the Middle East. My name is Richard Thompson. I'm the editorial director of MEED. I will be the moderator for today's discussion, and I have a panel of fantastic and wonderful experts here to join us today. Just running down the panel, so at the far end we have Osama Al-Zoubi. You are the Chief Technology Officer from the technology solutions company Cisco in the Middle East and Africa. Welcome, Osama.
Thank you for having me.
Next to Osama we have Massimo, Cannizzo. Now, you are the Managing Director of Accenture, the big management consultant and systems integration firm, and you have a global role in information strategy.
Correct.
Welcome, Massimo. And on my immediate right, we have Dr. Ernesto Damiani. Now, you are the Senior Director of the Artificial Intelligence Institute at Khalifa University in Abu Dhabi. Welcome, Ernesto. This is going to be a very important conversation. We know that for many years we have talked about artificial intelligence, and we can see it already disrupting and transforming industries like the banking sector and the services industry. But increasingly, the power sector, the oil and gas sector, the bigger parts of the economy and government operations are adopting artificial intelligence. So it's transforming everything today already, and we're only at the beginning. So Osama,
yes.
If I can start with you. So tell us what, I've just briefly touched on the fact that artificial intelligence is here, but why is it important?
Thank you very much, Richard. Good afternoon, everyone. We are at an unprecedented times in the history of mankind. Technology today is impacting everything we do. Not only it's impacting industries and businesses, but it's also impacting the individuals. As we look at this, we believe that artificial intelligence is the mother of all trends. No matter how you look at it, you will see that AI and machine learning.
So when we're talking about big data or IoT, the most important thing we should be understanding is artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence coupled with machine learning, which is probably a subsector of the big umbrella of AI. And why is it now? I would say probably because now if we look at AI, what is really AI? AI is handing over a decision making or a task to the machine. If we look at the compute capability in terms of capability and price, if we look at the algorithms and its advancement, but also if we look at the data availability, as you mentioned, bringing these ingredients together is really fueling the acceleration of AI.
Okay, and Dr. Ernesto, so as I mentioned in my intro, it's not new. You know, artificial intelligence, there's been movies since the 60s, probably even before on it, and the phrase has been around. So why are we talking about it today? What's changed?
That's a very good question, and I think that, well, in a sense, we have had what they used to call an AI winter, and I was around during that winter, where we had a few techniques that, well, they delivered a little bit, but not too much. And basically, they were not able to move significantly the technology. These days, we had a discontinuity. And the discontinuity, well, I would say there are several factors in this discontinuity. Of course, low-level technology, data acquisition, the data communication, and the computing, the distributed computing as well. Those technologies are now mature to handle, but I think they want to handle what? To handle the new algorithms. And we had a discontinuity, I would say, let's say at the beginning of 2005, 2006, 10 years ago, we had great contributions that kick-started the capability of training machine learning models, which are a big part of AI, based on these, I would say, these large quantities, these huge quantities of data. And this was something that people couldn't do before, and we can do it now.
So the discontinuity, as you call it, or the step forward, this is about our ability to structure and store data. It's not about the programming.
The ability of training our models with large quantity of data. Our models today, our AI components are closer to the human brain. Their depth, you may have heard the word deep learning, because their depth, they are thicker. They can sort of learn better from experience, learn their own instruction, and so the quality of the learning is much better. So the quality of the decision is much better. Face recognition, you name it. So the discontinuity happened in the research community, it happened 10 years ago, but the discontinuity in the business is happening now. So I think we are really on the edge of a, let's say, game changer type of
Okay, so that's a perfect opportunity to bring Massimo in. So
yeah.
Ernesto says we're at the edge of a game changer for business. You are a management consultant and a specialist in information strategies. So
Sure.
what is the game changer? For people listening to this broadcast or watching this, what should they be doing?
Yeah, first of all, I'm excited to talk about this topic because it's the most disruptive, the most innovative on the table now. We have the best brain thinking how to use this big potential, and it can be very, very important from the human evolution, not only for the technology. I mean, technology and business, it's something that's beyond the business. From a business perspective, the impact that we forecast is that in the next 5-6 years, we can see who is adopting widely artificial intelligence, having a boost of around 32% of additional growth to the normal trends because of this.
When you say 32% of additional growth, what growth of what? Spending or?
Growth of revenues, of business, on profits mainly.
Okay.
And this is becoming
from
because
artificial intelligence?
Driven by artificial intelligence for better decisions, first of all. Second, higher automation. So the applications that we are monitoring is, first of all, intelligent automation. It's not just automation, that this is robotics, and it's already happening since decades, but it's an intelligent automation. Machines that are learning and can do better and better. And of course, at the speed that is above the normal speed of a human production.
So in terms of, you've said revenue growth, 32% increase in revenue growth globally, I presume, that you are talking about from the adoption and application of artificial intelligence. What does that revenue growth, is it creating new markets or is it just higher levels of productivity? What is that?
Yeah, the
revenue
majority is regarding the creation of new products that couldn't be imagined, at least the kind of service provided to the customer without such a capability. Okay. I need to say that what is incredible, I mean, it's not new to have computers doing things that were done by humans before. I mean, since we invented probably the calculator, no, this is happening. But what is new is the ability of this machine to learn, no? As we said before, with machine learning, with deep learning, and so on. This is creating an acceleration that is, of course, unprecedented. I think it's very interesting to look at the movie. I don't know if you had the opportunity to look at a movie called Hair, and I also mentioned the director is from Spike Jonze, where there is this interesting.
The movie's called Her.
Her. And it's a story between Theodore and Samantha. Theodore is a future worker in the new world, and Samantha, the virtual artificial intelligent assistant. And I just mentioned one part of this movie when she said, I have just, what are you reading? I am reading a book. Okay, I am in the middle. And after 5 seconds, Samantha says, I've just ended now. Very interesting. So the speed that we can augment our capabilities is incredible.
Yeah, I would like to jump in on this because it's really very interesting. I hope that we can sort of highlight the difference between what was done before and what we can do now. What was done before, basically, a lot of programs could take automated decisions. And the automated decisions were basically taken based on some sort of an algorithm. You can imagine maybe rules. For example, you should take an antibiotic if you have an infection. And this is a rule, of course, and any doctor would apply it. Can be applied also by some automated version of the doctor. We are not talking about this. What we are talking about is the capability of the service to learn from experience in a customized way. This is why there's additional revenue to be generated.
Yeah.
Yes. You generate it because there is a new service. The service is the precision advice targeted to the individual or to the small group of individuals based on their features and characteristics.
So the software doesn't just go through a preset routine.
No, it learns from the
actually makes its own decisions. So you said a moment ago that the discontinuity that we've reached is to do with the ability to store and manipulate the data, but that's a programming that's also another step, isn't it?
Let me make the example more clear. For identifying faces, this solution which was available in the 90s had a sort of a 95, 96% capability of doing the identification. It was an average solution based on, well, the width of your eyes, the length of your nose, this type of geometrical type of features. It worked reasonably well, but you cannot really authenticate, I don't know, the ticket of the metro in Dubai based on that level of accuracy. You need to be able to identify people fast to see whether they have the ticket or not, and you have to do that with a very, very low ratio of errors. The techniques today can learn based on, I don't know, camera recording for the past 12 weeks. I can learn 1 million people with very, very, very strong accuracy. So the new revenue is no ticket.
And is that here now, or is that 5 years in the future?
No, it could be tomorrow, but we are in a very regulated sector. So, you know, transportation, for example, is a vertical domain where regulations are there. We can just bring innovation like this. But my colleagues know how to do it. Well, so I think we are close.
I'd like to come on to the regulation issue in a moment, but if we can just, I want to sort of follow up on one of Massimo's points there, Osama. So Massimo said that 32% growth in revenues for businesses from new products developed by self-learning engines. Cisco technology companies, so without giving away the commercial secrets, I mean, is that where you see revenue growth for companies such as your own?
Absolutely, 100%. And we would like to double click on this and probably unpack a little bit. So when we start talking about the 32% growth, or as we look at it probably in the next decade, there will be an impact for those organizations who use AI machine learning to deliver their product and services versus those who don't. They will probably gain a competitive advantage of about $1.2 trillion difference between those who do versus those who don't.
So globally, $1.2 trillion. And are we talking about particular industries? So the retail sector or the banking sector?
Those are extremely good ones. They are taking full advantage of this, but we believe that everyone. So for example, let's just maybe even double click a little bit deeper. Cybersecurity is really top of mind for everyone. We at Cisco, almost on daily basis, detect more than 20 billion attacks every single day. That amounts to a little bit over 230,000 attacks every single second. Humanly, it's not possible to do this with magnitude. We believe that AI, and one layer down, machine learning, with deep learning potentially allows us to not only detect, but also defend against those attacks. On daily basis, we see around 1.5 million malwares. That's amount to about 1,000 malware every single minute. How do we address those? We at Cisco employ the machine learning capability in the products in terms of the hardware, but also in the solutions on the software that allow us to detect at speed, but also at scale. We look at, for example, in the application, just if I may add, in the application side. So when we start looking at healthcare, when we start looking at retail, when we start looking at banking. For example, in healthcare, the genome sequencing is well known to take the majority of, in terms of compute capability, but also the algorithm to address that. As we deliver solutions in the data center that not only on-premise, but also on the cloud, make it accessible to all innovators and entrepreneurs to start now innovating and developing new solutions to impact healthcare, retail, banking, and others.
Now, if
I want to add something very important regarding the business impact. One of the immediate application of artificial intelligence we are experiencing also as Accenture implementing them is the customer care, is the managing the relationship and the interaction with the customers. I mean, having an artificial intelligent agent means that this agent can adapt to the preferences of the customer. I mean, we all at management level do training, understanding the behavior, the profiles of the customer, how to adapt the communication, the pace of the communication, the kind of visual or not. I think that machine learning and artificial intelligence can fit 100% the expectation of the customer, and they can learn interacting with them, which is the best result. So it's a revolution in how to interface with customer and to increase the attractiveness of the even existing products and services.
I entirely agree with that, and I would like, if possible, to add one line to that, also in reference to an example that was done before, which is basically, for example, let's say precision medicine based on genomes. So suppose today I wanted to give advice to people on how they should their lifestyle change to avoid diabetes. I do general advice. If I have an idea of who you are and what is your family tree, I can give you specific advice. Of course, the machine learns from experience, so it's trained to the genomes of a number of people, and it is able to target the advice to the individual. Here in the UAE, though, we are struggling to put together the data set, because the data sets until now they've been collected in the US, they've been collected in Europe. So we have that problem that is called the transfer learning. How you take a model which has been sort of trained on somewhere else and you deploy successfully in another place. And this is an effort that opens also business opportunities.
Yes.
Because you
Well,
have to target
one of the big
markets.
themes that I've seen from working at MEED and dealing with various industries in the region over many years is getting people to adopt new practices or new technologies or change the way. And over the past few years, the innovation agenda has kind of touched on that. So I'm guessing that what you're talking about, knowledge transfer, that's also about changing culture, changing the way people behave.
Yeah, of course. What I was saying is that there are two levels. One level is moving from generalized to customized, and this AI can deliver.
Definitely.
My colleagues can comment better than me on that, but I believe it. Secondly, is making sure that we have the right set of examples to learn from. And of course, this is basically, it's a problem which is called transfer learning. If I train somewhere else, I will need to adapt my model to the realities where I deploy it. So basically, this is also something that is taking place as we speak here.
Yes.
Because we need to be able to have worldwide models that can be deployed worldwide. And we're doing it in security. I know Cisco is doing it, but I mean...
Osama, sorry, you were going to make a point.
Yeah, so in addition to what Dr. Ernesto and Massimo mentioned, I think the big theme focus on the consumer. We believe that probably consumers are going to be the biggest guide on how AI, machine learning, will deliver massive value. So let me give you a couple of data points. Number one, there was a study that conducted in 2017 where users would wait approximately maximum of about 3 seconds for a web page to load. The same study conducted in 2018, and that went down from 3 seconds to 2 seconds. So you can imagine the amount of expectation that has actually grown. Our ability to use the massive data we have with the capability we have on the systems, which is in terms of compute and algorithm, to actually detect those specific requirements and customize the solutions to our customers is key. 56% of consumers and users will make decisions based on the customer experience. Our ability to bring the 360 degrees omni-channels, as we call it, from the first touch point of the customers all the way to the post-engagement is key, that entire experience. So when we talk about the solutions, my ability to understand if that user is coming on a website to request a service or search for information, how fast can they find it? But also how fast can they react to their sentiment? For example, today, if you are a service provider, let's say whether it's you are an airline or a bank or a retail or what have you, that user engagement is so critical, and your ability to provide that high quality experience is key. So for us, the solutions that we provide is really taking care of this 360 degrees engagement. AI machine learning can deal with the mass data in terms of scale, but also in terms of speed to react and delivery of services.
Massimo, if I can come back to your point about revenues. So that's the top line story. That's great. Companies can grow revenues as the way Osama was just talking about. But let's look at the bottom line. So the big question that always comes up is jobs. So if companies are driving revenues, but robots are doing it, people aren't needed. So what does it mean for jobs? You know, what does it mean for the bottom line? Presumably costs will go down.
This is a very important question, and actually is the clue that makes this argument the topic of the century, probably. No, I think that at Accenture we are looking for the first time at the technology not only as a business impact. For the first time, we are working hard in analyzing the impact of artificial intelligence on the humankind. Actually, we are shaping in our strategy something that is focused, is centered on humans, so that all artificial intelligence can appear like a human plus strategy. It's a human capability augmentation that we need to look at. I think that this is a process that we started many years ago, as I said before, with a calculator, no? and the power steering wheel of the car. I mean, nobody could drive today a car without it, no? And this is is, we cannot stop it.
But
we
what-
need
but
to
what
understand.
if robots or artificial intelligence can do all of the things that we've talked about already,
Correct.
what do humans bring to the table? Why do
So
we need
actually,
to be there?
and I want to connect also what Ernesto was saying before regarding the education. I think this is also representing a moment, a topical moment in changing the education of the young generations. I think that if I project myself in the next decades, maybe not in the next few years, people will be two categories. People who are able to learn how to program artificial intelligence, the robots and so on, and to control them, so engineers mainly, but not only engineers, and people who are enhancing more the human attitudes. So if I think about creativity, improvisation, the ability to lead, not to execute. So the humankind evolution, because of augmentation driven by artificial intelligence, is creating a human plus that is doing less manually, doing less even repetitive works, because as we said, this is the first time that automation is replacing white-collar jobs, no? And this is something that is changing and is scaring a lot. But if you think that this will increase the quality of life, it will increase the quality of the contribution of the single humans.
What percentage of jobs require that creative element? I mean, let's take, for example, lawyers or the legal profession, and there's a lot of data, a lot of case studies.
Very good.
You know,
Good example, because actually today in US there is around 20-30% percentage of disruption in the lawyer's job in the young generation, because already today the research of the similar causes and so on, and the judgment around that, and so is done by artificial intelligence, not anymore by young lawyers just searching in the books or in the computers. So this is something that is probably speeding up the career of these lawyers to go to the court as soon as possible and do the real lawyer job instead of spending time looking at the books.
From the university point of view, this is a very good point. Augmentation is the paradigm, is not substitution and is not exclusion.
Yeah.
So at least this is where we should all be working toward, in order to preserve also the capability of people to basically earn their own salaries and to be able also to be part of the economy. Otherwise we risk creating this type of exclusion. From my point of view, I entirely agree that it is a teamwork type of training that we need to do. And in fact, people need to be trained to work with AI.
Yes.
So even in the university teaching, we should move to having people who can collaborate effectively with the AI, rather than someone, not just the designer. I understand, by the way, the designer will also be helped by AI. So the AI will help design the AI. This is happening already today. But everyone will need to learn, as today you learn to be, I mean, in collaboration with your environment, with other people, you will need to learn to collaborate. There's no reason to be afraid.
Over the past few decades, we've had the big international companies have outsourced a lot of their data services to, BPO organizations in India or somewhere like that. So presumably, a lot of that repetitive research work can be done by a robot.
Yes.
You talked about the lawyers just now. Earlier you talked about doctors. Engineers follow processes and maths. That can be done by robots. There can't be enough jobs for people if you just leave the creative bit.
So if we look at AI, I think AI is the general term, but there is actually probably 3 levels of AI. We talk about AI as ANI, which is artificial narrow intelligence, which is for the most part is what we have today. The next level up is really AGI, which is the artificial general intelligence. And then the biggest level that a lot of people are talking about is the ASI, which is the artificial super intelligence, at which point they call it the singularity, right? The singularity is really...
Now, that's a black hole, I know that. What do you mean a singularity?
Well, the singularity is the term that's being used in academia, actually, and also in businesses today to define the compute or the robot, at which point, or artificial intelligence machine that actually exceeds the intelligence of human, or basically be at the same level or even better in terms of speed, capability, but also the ability to build experiences and learn at speed. So if we look at these 3 levels, I think we need to look at where we are in terms of timeline, but also what is the impact on economy, society, as well as the job market. I think you're going to find in the market there are two extremes and a middle. So there are the people who are extremely pessimist, where they're going to say that, oh my God, the world is ending. You're going to find on the right-hand side the pessimists who are saying that no, probably artificial intelligence and machine learning is really going to make us superhuman, but you're going to probably find really the reality is somewhere in the middle ground. Do we really need to take AI, machine learning seriously? Absolutely we do. Is it going to have an impact? Absolutely. And probably it's going to create, in my view, being on the pessimist, on the optimist side a little bit.
Was that a Freudian slip there? Are you on the pessimist or the optimist side?
Definitely on the optimist side. I would say that on the, it's creating a lot more opportunity that's creating risk for us, but we really need to take care of our education, but also the skill set that are going to be required as we go forward.
Yeah, I think that this is a big call for governments, and especially the governance of big global corporations. I think that the way it's ruled and will be the laws that will be created around artificial intelligence will make the difference. For example, one of the theories is that you can tax the work performed by artificial intelligence and by robots in order to create a sort of budget to reverse to the missing jobs. This is one theory, a very theoretical one.
You gave a big sigh there.
Because this is a very important point. What is the level of responsibility and liability that we give to the AI? So this is a very important point because, of course, in order to tax them, you also have to recognize a certain level of responsibility and a certain level of liability. This is a problem that we needed to address.
So where are we on that conversation at the moment? Sorry, Massimo.
That's the why I was saying before. We are now working in our strategies. There is a chapter in our artificial intelligence strategies that is called ethical and responsiveness strategy. That means how adopting artificial intelligence, the company or the government can be sure to take the good of the artificial intelligence, controlling potentially the bad impact.
I would like to add one thing, if I can, a very short line. First of all, that here in the UAE, the government has been at the forefront of developing strategies for the adoption of AI. And I think that this is also linked to the fact that here we have an infrastructure that is, well, new and can do the collection and can enable AI in vertical sectors faster than elsewhere. So it's a big opportunity, and I think that the strategy that has been developed here by the government is very good, and in a sense, it can help a lot the companies.
Do you think that this webinar today, it's about artificial intelligence in the Middle East?
Yes.
And you've just introduced that regional aspect, saying that in this market, particularly Dubai, I guess you're talking about, we've got the new infrastructure and a forward-thinking government. So where is the Middle East on this adoption and acceptance of AI? I guess from a cultural point of view, but also from a legislative or regulatory point of view.
I would like to use one word and then leave it to the experts. My word is sandbox. The problem that we have, for example, in Europe, the obsession is sandbox, meaning that the government or some legislative body has to create norms for using AI. For example, AI is a tax accountant. Of course, can it substitute someone with a license? Well, of course, this needs to be regulated. Yes. Okay, and not all governments are proficient in doing this sandboxing, which enables the AI to be deployed. I would say that here in the UAE, we have, and especially in Dubai, as you said, we have really forward thinking in terms of creating the regulatory opportunity for the AI to be deployed.
So I think that, Middle East in general, then of course there are peculiarities country by country, is the ideal place, from my point of view. One reason I moved to the Middle East as well, because I see a lot of potential to create, to incubate this human plus prospect. This means that there is, from a technology point of view, flexibility. Systems are new and innovative, so there are no layers of many complexities from a bureaucratic point of view. And in addition, I see that Middle East in general is importing a lot of workforce, a lot of very labor work and very operational work. I think that the shift could be to leverage more on artificial intelligence to import more and more more intelligent, more human work, more than repeatable work that can be done by machines. So this will be a big impact in the autonomy of these countries. Then, of course, countries like UAE, countries like Saudi Arabia are completely different from a composition of the society, and this will require adaptation. But if we look at the strategies of UAE, of Saudi Arabia, we are working with both these governments quite heavily in the preparation to the artificial intelligence jump. It's incredible, the vision that we are looking in these countries. We are not experiencing the same in Europe, at least where I know very well. A lot of people is chatting about this, but here we see things happening, and I think this is huge.
Osama,
Yeah, definitely on the Middle East side, I would like to pitch in because this is very critical for us. Compared to the rest of the world, I see the Middle East probably even taking a much faster and quicker steps towards employing AI machine learning to enhance the quality of life. You already mentioned with regards to the UAE, the forward thinking, already ahead of the game in many areas around the world, Saudi Arabia and many other governments in the region. The region is really fertile ground for our ability to bring real use cases where we can easily demystify the perceived threat from AI and employ it in order for us to really deliver real value.
is there, so one of the trends in this region for many years has been buying in technology, buying in expertise, and that's part why Khalifa University was established to develop local capacity, human capability, particularly on the technology side. What you've just described, Osama, is you're talking about still being a consumer, a spender or a
Yes.
buyer, a purchaser of AI and technology. How much is going to come from the region? How, you know,
I think this is excellent point, Richard. I'll tell you why, because recently we at Cisco, we established an innovation center, but I do also know that because we partner with my colleagues, whether in the academia or also in the business side, we partner really to enable the locals to innovate. So innovation centers where those are the ground where we bring the platform to develop and innovate and use creativity, curiosity, asking questions, etc., all those new futuristic skills, but also bring the capability to the region so that we can innovate. I believe the region is definitely going to lead in terms of contribution to AI machine learning innovation.
and if I can come to
Yeah,
Ernesto.
also, I would like to add this. It was already implied, but I would like to highlight it.
Yes.
You cannot import AI. Because AI is not just the algorithm. I would even say that the algorithm is not the main part. The major part is the training. And the training you cannot import. You can import pre-training, but you
Ernesto,
cannot import. The value needs
Massimo
to be
said
created
that
locally.
we're going to see 32% growth in revenues from new products and sales. Are those products going to come from in this region or from outside, and we're going to keep on?
The products are the services and the products that we can develop and offer using AI.
Yes.
Now, the AI itself that will work here cannot be the AI I buy with turnkey system from the US. It is something that needs value addition from here.
Okay.
So this is why it's a win-win proposition.
I would like to add a data point that the recent study shows that in Middle East, the potential opportunity around AI will grow to about 320 billion by the year 2030. There is no doubt that
You
some
mentioned
of
1.2 trillion previously. So that's about 1/4 of the amount. Is that over of that 1.2 billion?
those are kind of not the same.
Okay.
The 1.2 trillion is competitive advantage for businesses that will actually employ AI
I see. Okay.
versus the potential opportunity total in AI that's going to be in our region. The idea here is that I totally agree. I think some of the experiences that we build around machine learning algorithms that are created globally, we're going to benefit from them, but we are going to create distributed innovation that create an exponential environment in terms of adding value across the entire value chain.
Okay.
Again, whether it's in healthcare or education, oil and gas, manufacturing, transportation, smart city, you name it, AI is going to play a critical role, and we believe there is massive room of contribution of the entire society, and that's what innovation can do for us.
There is already a case of excellence. For example, in UAE, we have one of the best, I think Singapore also is a good example of security managing the video surveillance and artificial intelligence monitoring the number of cameras that are around the city. This is already something that is in place, and in many other countries this was not possible. Okay. May I do the role of the bad guy now? Because so far we said, oh, artificial intelligence is fantastic.
I'll play the role of the good guys.
But I know, I'm joking. Actually, I want to share the result of a survey around the challenges, because of course, behind this kind of good opportunities, we are also facing challenges in implementing, in bringing this. These are mainly 6 challenges. One is the scarcity of talents. I mean, artificial intelligence is great, but what is needed to build artificial intelligence is a niche skill that is incredibly difficult to find.
And is that a global challenge or just a regional challenge?
It's a global challenge, but even in the Middle East, it's even higher.
Can
Even
I
if,
interject while you're talking about those? Because we definitely agree. And that's why we believe distributed innovation is extremely critical. And we do know that the government locally here, as well as the rest of the governments in the Middle East, are sponsoring the distributed innovation, and they are supporting all innovation.
By distributed innovation, do you mean sort of startups and small entrepreneurs creating solutions?
Exactly. For example, what we are doing at Cisco, not only we build an innovation center here locally in Dubai, and we are inviting every entrepreneur to contribute, we also provided the platform to develop that includes the APIs, which is direct access into our systems, software and hardware, so that we can innovate and create local capabilities.
Okay.
Yeah,
Massimo.
we measure 43% in a survey. 43% of clients say that they cannot do properly AI because of scarcity of talents. Yeah, I go through the other quickly. The 36% of our customer believes that they are not able to proceed at speed on artificial intelligence because of gaps in data quality or data quantity or ability to govern data. I see in this moment, this is a key topic in Middle East. We are having huge demand in terms of data governance, data management, improvement.
And is the problem that we're not creating the raw data with sensors, or is it that we have the data, we're just not managing it and structuring it properly?
The data needs to be at the right level of quality and the right level of structuring. I mean, data has to be organized.
Okay.
Unorganized data is much more complex to manage. The 53%, I'll just go quickly, 53% are scaring about security, that is
hacking and
weakened, yeah, exactly. 52% on privacy, the impact on privacy. 32% on opaqueness of artificial intelligence logic, and 49% on science.
What was the thing about logic you just said?
It's the fact that it's not transparent. The way artificial intelligence machines are thinking, are acting.
The algorithm is not this.
The AI turned basically against my application for a mortgage, right? So I mean, if I have a branch director, I can go and complain. What if it's automatic? And this is the type of things that when we delegate decision making to AI, we have to understand that people will need justification. And this is part of the value. Right. So today, the fastest techniques do not justify. They just ensure that on average they are taking the good decision. But well, this is not enough for the individual to accept. So customer acceptance or having the AI as part of the service is very important, I believe.
Yeah,
and we need
privacy is a topic. I think that, I mean, it's at the end, it's my choice as a person to understand how much I want to share on myself to have a better service from a customer service point of view, from whatever is the service company. I think at the end is a compromise, you know, but it's a cultural change that we need to help to drive in the safety.
And was there one final point on your list? Or
no, it was,
the list?
Somebody thinks that actually artificial intelligence, 49%, it's a science fiction, that actually there is a lot of blah blah, but we are not ready. I disagree completely on this, because
so we've gone well beyond science fiction into Ernesto.
I believe we are ready. And the big factors that may still hinder the large-scale deployment are the ones that we were discussing. Regulation, availability of the data at the right level of quality, and again, this is an advantage of being here. Both of these aspects are better than elsewhere, but doesn't mean they are perfect. We still have to improve, of course. And the third part is, of course, the development of the new algorithms. We have a few problems. Some problems we do very well, other problems we do a little bit less. So on some areas, of course, we need to still improve the algorithmic part. Yes. But we have at least 2 or 3 large domains in which One is computer vision, understanding what you see.
Yes.
Well,
I would
this,
like
is,
to
this is ready. We just need to go.
Yeah, in the interest of time, I'll make a couple of comments that are very critical around the data. Today, we have massive amount of data. We're talking about 90% of the global data available to us, 90% of the entire data since the inception of humanity was created only in the last 2 years. So we have massive amount of data, no doubt. Yeah. We are at a time where if data is not brought into context, it might not be useful, to your point, Massimo. And therefore, when we bring the algorithms, the right algorithm, with the right context, on the right data, we can create tremendous value. I believe we don't have shortage of data. It's how we use the data, in which context, and how fast can we use that, it's going to be key. I think in terms of when we start talking about the other challenges in terms of privacy, security, and others, I think AI in general, if you believe that we're ever going to achieve the ASI, the artificial superintelligence, there are many controversies that are stirring in the market around, culture, religion, legal, philosophy. How do we deal with this? How do we coexist with it, and so on and so forth? But a lot of indicators show that this is probably far off. What we are dealing with today is artificial narrow intelligence today that can really, we can use that to impact our life extremely positively and potentially take that to AGI.
If I can step in now. So this first question, this is about, I think, smart cities. So cities are getting more intelligent with lots of IoT sensors, Internet of Things sensors. What kind of AI solutions can be leveraged for cities to make them more enjoyable and more livable? So perhaps, Ernesto, smart cities
well,
and AI.
I can start, but although, of course, the IoT thing means that everything can contribute to the data flows. So we can have massive data flows. Artificial intelligence is there to use those data flows to take decisions. We were discussing about the gateless metro. This is a typical dream situation in which we don't waste time, right? We just walk in and walk out, and at the end of the month we get the bill on our bank account. So this is something that can happen. You can see the problem. First of all, the data flow, the data collection, the number of cameras and stuff like that. And this is part of the IoT. Each camera inside a metro station becomes a contributor to the data flow. And we need to have the infrastructure. Then where we do the computation that will identify you? Do we do it in the station? Do we do it in some central part on the cloud? All these engineering problems need to be solved. And thirdly, I believe that there is the notion of privacy again. Who is going to keep these faces there and will know that I passed through that metro station at the moment? My employer could have the right to ask, maybe, or not. My insurance company. So you see, the improvement of the smart city will be making the city answer to your needs without asking or without queuing up for them. Correct. It's sort of automatic.
So there's the infrastructure side of it, and then there's the actual cultural side of it.
But there's a cultural side.
Yes.
And I think that the two things must go step
hand
by
in hand.
step. Hand in hand.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, a second question, and these are in no sequence. I'm just taking the questions as they come in. So, beyond technology, how can a trading business best utilize AI? So, Massimo, maybe this is for the management consultant.
Actually, as I said before, the business is already activated. Everybody, I think that we have, in this survey that we did, 48% of the businessmen C-level confirms that they are convinced that AI will change the way to do business in the future. So actually, the awareness is there. They are more scaring on how to do it, how to compete in this. What is missing and what we are telling to our customer is that the speed is unprecedented. So it's not time to wait. I mean, it's not possible to learn by the first mover. Even the first follower would be a loser in this case, because of the acceleration. As I said before, just to make an example that is reconnected to a better life, a smart city. Air traffic control person can monitor thousands of flights in his life, and sometimes he can judge a risky situation because of this thousands experience. Bringing this data in an artificial intelligence system, this can leverage trillions of flights, and every station can leverage it. So But this is an acceleration, as I said, of capabilities that will be not, will be not waiting for the followers.
We definitely agree with this. I think waiting is not an option. The risk of not investing can be.
But you can understand why people might be nervous, because it's new technology. They have to put some upfront investment into adopting the system. What if they get it wrong? But things move so fast.
The alternative is not an option. They're going to have to move at speed, because that's really the expectation in the market, right? I think for me, if the choice could mean really my permanent services to this particular organization or the lack thereof, right?
In this part of the world, we have a long history of big trading companies, family-owned trading companies, sort of conglomerates. So the question was about trading companies. Yes. Is there a pattern? Do the Middle East family trading companies tend to be risk-averse or more conservative when investing in new technologies, or are they very bold? And is there a pattern that you
Well, if we look at this, I think, what are we really saying in very simple sense? I mean, if we look at any organization, it's made of people, processes, and technology. Bringing those in a way that means your ability to deliver your services and product in the best possible way to the targeted audience is key. Whether they are a local company which have an opportunity to globally lead, or a global opportunity that if they don't do the right thing, they could probably face their demise. So
and by the way, there are industries that are very advanced already, like insurance, the example Ernesto was bringing before. Now the policies are real-time calculated according with artificial intelligence algorithms, and capital markets, since at least a decade, maybe two, is using a lot of artificial intelligence to monitor the markets and to predict how the market is going. So this kind of business, I think, are leading on.
So, Richard, if I may, the smart city is very near and dear to my heart, and I think I would probably put the discontinuity word of Dr. Ernesto again towards that, because we've been talking about smart city for a very long time, and because we did not make the breakthrough probably until now in that, people lost interest. However, I would like to say that today we have an ability with the product and solutions that's available to us to really create, if you will, the perfect city that improves the quality of life. I'll just give a very small, simple example. The example of, God forbid, if we have an incident, whether it's natural disaster or a man-made incident. When we connect all the different entities and organizations, when we bring all the data points from the sensors, from the cameras, from the ambulances, the police car, the fire trucks, and all of the different organizations into a command and control center, and we use AI machine intelligence, but also coupled and brought with the human intelligence, we have ability to potentially save lives and improve the quality of life in those cities dramatically.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to push on with the questions. Now, this one, I don't know, this is very specific about Kuwait, so I don't know if Kuwait is a market that any of the three of you know. So it's from a human resources company, and so perhaps the question can be broader than Kuwait, but it's about Kuwait. What is the scope of services, and what areas can artificial intelligence serve in relation to the Kuwait market? So this person
I have a very good case of a company that duplicated the throughput of hiring in HR by using artificial intelligence. Having cameras taking movies of videos of the behaviors of the candidates and the body language, they could select the perfect candidate much easier than just using the traditional interviews. This is specific for HR. Then looking at the wider, I think that Kuwait is not different from the other countries. Artificial intelligence can replace blue-collar work, can challenge a bit the white collar. The only way is, again, look at it like a human plus, as I said before, opportunity, and center all these around the skills of improving the skills of governing. Actually, we didn't mention, but there is a huge trend in creating this artificial intelligence governance within each company that is assuring that things are done in a safe way for the business, for the
ask Ernesto exactly about that. So you talked about the frustration that someone might feel if they don't understand the logic of a robot.
Refusal, maybe, or what.
So that relates presumably to the governance of AI. So how, I mean, is that an area where you are looking at?
Yeah, this is very important. Well, we were discussing HR, for example, key employee retention, that type of stuff, of course. You may want to have behavioral analysis leading. You can even estimate the value of not only who they have, but the prediction of who this will still be with them in 10 months or in 10 years. So, I mean, all this is analysis that has to do with people. Yes. So people, are they willing contributors to being analyzed because they see collective value? And normally the answer to that is more yes than no, if they can understand the goals. So the most important part is the goal sharing.
Yes. So there's a communication issue.
Communication issue, you need to share the goal of why you are doing the AI analytics, behavioral analytics especially, needs goal specific.
Correct. In addition to this, we believe that if we bring really the AI machine, if you will, if you bring the machine with human, we can really address that gap, because now, for example, I have the chatbot, which is basically a piece of software or a machine that's talking to human. If I give the human the ability to escalate that conversation to speak to a real human if they wish, that could potentially bridge the gap, because ultimately you're going to have diverse interest on how they want to deal with that machine. So our ability today, the solutions, for example, we provide that allow you to escalate from chatbot all the way to a chat-like
so
or
we can use
speak-like.
humans to augment the robots as well as...
well, or make the human superhuman, and now
Okay.
they have robots working for them.
So I'm sorry to be rude, but we've got a
please.
few questions and
Sure,
we're running out of time. So this is about the electricity sector, so I don't know which one of the three of you might want to look at this. Is there a role for artificial intelligence in electricity systems, and are there any cases of AI in this area today, particularly blockchain?
I can't resist answering this one because in my past I led a couple of large European projects specifically on electricity, and of course there's a lot of room from the upstream, the power production, and for example, well, there are so many, now these days production is sort of, you have smaller plants. The smaller plants are not uniform in terms of their maintenance, in terms of the life cycles. So you need someone who can really choose and make decisions based on the history of a galaxy of small plants. There's the grid, optimization in the grid, which used to be traditionally in a normal ecosystem with a few operators. Now we are complex ecosystems. Yes. A lot of companies behave in a different way, making decisions. You require to have a wider perception, to perceive a lot of things at the same time. AI is better than humans. And then there's the retail. And the retail, I can only start at the beginning, optimizing depending on the habits of the customer. Water, yes, but also electricity. Yes. There's a lot of room for optimization, 100%. For this type of customization of the delivery and customization of the prices.
And so where does AI fit within that? Is it sensors in the house or in
the meters, intelligent meters will be basically are the key for application of AI to retail. Yes. The intelligent grid and the intelligent production plants. All of those.
And I would add the smart contracts that you can, with blockchain, implement to have something like a real-time billing that is intelligent as well. So maybe it's an old service, but it's a completely new in the way it's billed to the customer, because you can have a profile of usage that can be more expensive. Like for the driving already exists in car insurance. My driving style can impact the value of my policy.
Osama, yeah, definitely in the electricity, as we start looking at those smart meters become sensors, because they provide extremely valuable data that allow the smart grid to start adjusting in terms of delivery of electricity to homes. But in addition to this now, also as we start looking at those renewable energies, whether we use solar or we use winds, now those endpoints, instead of only consuming electricity or consuming energy, now those can start also not only producing energy for use, but also producing energy to bring it back into the grid as well, that can be stored as well as distributed. So definitely AI, machine learning, as well as blockchain plays very significant role in how to transform the energy sector in terms of optimization, service delivery, but also distributed service generation and delivery.
Okay, thank you. Now, moving on, this is a question from someone in the oil industry, so from electricity, utilities to oil. Yes. Possibly, Massimo, this is for you. What is the scope for artificial intelligence in the supply chain? I guess this means supply chain management, but I might be wrong. And how fast is that accelerating?
Yeah, I think that oil and gas is a very huge adopter of this artificial intelligence. First of all, for the production, because I mean the analysis of how a well is producing oil can be optimized according with the billions of experience of other wells and so on. For the supply chain, the full supply chain, of course, when you have the ability to analyze the performance of the supply chain, also reusing algorithms that are improving and improving and improving, maybe also globally leveraged, because companies like Halliburton, Schlumberger, they are working on this, mainly on this, and what they discover from this algorithm can be leveraged, leveraging the global experience, not just the single oil company. And this is, of course, I think that's above the human experience abilities, because it's something that is unprecedented.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to move from oil and gas now. We're going to go to the banking and financial sectors.
nice.
So we're going around all of the industries. I think we've touched on everything just about. The financial sector obviously has probably been most affected already by this, but how is the financial sector reacting to the artificial intelligence agenda? Is the sector moving fast enough to catch up? And how does the sector look like upon full implementation of AI technologies? So, Ernesto.
I would like to mention this because this is another topic. We have been working in some European projects in the past, and we're working in the UAE. The problem is that the finance sector, well, I would like to say something which is in common with the finance sector and the other sectors. In which sense the AI is superhuman? The AI is superhuman because it can perceive at the same time a much wider spectrum of information, so it can notice statistical regularities that the humans cannot, because each human is looking at a different aspect. If I'm looking at, for example, the financial sector, I'm looking at the stock market, I won't be an expert of raw materials. If I'm an expert of raw materials, I won't be able to do government bonds. So now the AI can look at everything at the same time and learn from the global situation at the same time. This is what makes the difference. The problem is that with the application to this type of knowledge to the business decisions are being supervised. Of course, there is supervision of the central banks, supervision of the regulatory authorities. So can I use a risk index on the stock market that also considers how the raw materials are going? Can I use that? Well, can I use it to my customers? What is the liability? So the industry is moving very fast. Regulations are dragging their feet.
But that's a good thing, isn't it?
It could be a good thing.
I mean,
I'm not saying that's right.
If regulation is slow, it can hold us all back, but it's also there to protect
Cautious.
us.
I totally agree, and I think it probably too much regulation will definitely limit innovation. We need enough regulation to make sure that the industry is regulated, but we don't want too much regulation that will limit the innovation. Just one point.
And where would you say we are at the moment? Too much or too little, or it's just behind the curve, or what's your view?
Well, I would say probably we are just slightly behind the curve, because in terms of finance, we can easily see probably how blockchain impact the financial industry in general. Financial industry, if we start talking about banking in specific, it shares a very common platform with retail, which is basically directly related to consumer. What kind of services are provided? How fast? How do I do my wealth management, if you will? What kind of services do I have availability for me? What kind of insurance do I need? What kind of investment do I need, and so on and so forth. So in terms of regulation, I would say slightly behind. In terms of the impact on banking is definitely big.
A positive aspect is the readiness from a cultural point of view, because banking is a market that since ever based the business on statistics and data. So the quality of these abilities are quite high in this company. So the idea to evolve to artificial intelligence, it's a normal shift, and this is happening.
May I say just to understand the weight of regulation. Suppose that I wanted to decide to monitor your activity on the bank website, and deciding on your activity, I will propose you, for example, a loan. If you're nervously checking your balance of your account, maybe it means you need a loan. So I could use that information and your behavior interacting with the bank to do a commercial offer.
Absolutely.
This is a problem, though, because the regulations will say that the data that you are collecting about the usage of the user of the bank website cannot be used for that. They can only be used to improve the service. They cannot be used for commercial development. So this is a point in which the regulation may hinder the commercial opportunity. On the other hand, I mean, the customer has to sign a wider
May
consent.
choose that, exactly.
Okay. So choice is, I believe, an important factor.
Okay, this is one on healthcare. So we're again moving around the sectors. We started on healthcare earlier. What applications of AI and blockchain in healthcare in the GCC are being considered?
Well, we certainly here are working, I'm talking now specifically what we're doing at Khalifa. We are one of the best institutes of research in genomics. We are looking at the usage of the gene data in addition to environmental data for the lifestyle. And it's not just pharmaceutics, it is also the lifestyle advice. And this is a key way AI can help well-being, preserving our health.
100%.
Of course. So basically, we are working on that. It's not easy.
And is that with the health authorities in the region?
Of course. One of the major things we are trying to do is to set up the right bank of genetics data that will weight, for example, the Arab genome in the right way, because this is not been, it's not a property of the banks, of the data sets that you can get from outside.
But one key aspect I would like to add in terms of the healthcare is that how do we implement machine capability that will allow us to really ensure the right implementation of policies and regulation. When it comes to healthcare, it's extremely delicate, I would say, vertical. We want to really provide the right healthcare at the right time, at the right speed, but at the same time, we want to be compliant and preserving the end user privacy as well as the data integrity. So, implementing AI machine learning into the network and the infrastructure that allow us to ensure the right policy compliance is key.
Massimo?
Keyword interoperability. I think in the healthcare market is fundamental the ability to have a repository of medical records, personal medical records that can be leveraged with all the artificial intelligence algorithm on top that can be leveraged across the different companies, the different ministries of the different government and private entities.
So I guess we get into the regulatory issues there as well then.
Yeah, this is very important and is, I think is a showstopper because if my medical data are owned by only healthcare company and in case of emergency another healthcare company don't know me while actually could, this is limiting the positive impact of these technologies.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, I'm very sorry we've run out of time. Hopefully we can have another conversation on this same topic because clearly we've just touched the tip of the iceberg. But thank you, Osama, Massimo, Ernesto, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you very much for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you on the next Meet Live.
Thank you very much, Richard, Ernesto, and Massimo.
Thank you for Cisco sponsoring this event. It was appreciated.
Excellent. Well done. Thank you.